Ag PhD full episodes and more are now available on Acres TV, the newest ag platform connecting you to fields of information. Look for us on watchacrestv.com.
During our Farm Basics time today, we're going to talk about scouting using satellite imagery.
Well, one of the cool things with satellite imagery is most farmers now have access to it, whether it's through programs like VRAFY or Climate or others, or maybe specific satellite services. Satellite imagery now is pretty cheap, generally $1 or $2 an acre at the most, sometimes even cheaper. And it's something that we can use for scouting on the farm. But the question is, how do we use that throughout the season?
Yep, so what we've kind of told people here over the last few years is seeing satellite imagery in the middle of the season anyway is kind of like seeing your yield map in the fall 3 months in advance. In other words, you can identify, once we get to mid-season, I'm not saying this early, but once you get to mid-season, you can really see where the high-yielding areas are going to be, where the low-yielding areas are going to be. And that's kind of the whole point of this. When you look at the satellite image, you just want to see where's the vegetation good, where is it not so good, and where it's not so good, that's where we got to go out and find out what's the problem. Is it weeds, insects, diseases, drainage, compaction? What's going on there? You're not going to probably be able to figure that out in the fall when you go through with the combine and go, whoa, my yield's terrible. But right now, or anytime through the summer, you can identify those spots, go out and find out what's really going on, so hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Well, oftentimes, if you get really busy in the spring and you don't get looking at the satellite imagery till the middle of the season, yes, to Brian's point, you see, oh no, I've got a problem out there, let's go figure out what it is. I like looking back in time and saying, okay, let's go back to our planting date and see, well, what are the issues and when did they develop in the field? One of the first things I'm looking at, as soon as we've got crop that's up and you can row the crop, I'm gonna look at the satellite images and see, do I have a good stand everywhere? Am I not getting the ground covered in certain spots? Perhaps there's something I can go in and reseed a portion of that field quicker, or at least this is going to tell me what parts of my fields do I need to really go out and do a stand count in, and that really helps me save some time rather than driving every single acre of our farm.
So I think the whole point is, and where Darren was going with this is, even early in the season this can be used. Yes, the first satellite image you see of the year might not exactly match your harvest map, but the idea is to identify problem areas, try to go to those as quickly as you can and figure out what is going wrong, and then hopefully we can take care of them this year, but worst case scenario, at least we get them fixed going into next season.
Yeah, a lot of times you take this year's crop and you figure things out as you go and say, okay, I'm gonna fix that so that doesn't happen to me again, because once your crop's been hurt, it's hurt. And yeah, you can go out and foliar feed and you can do some things, especially in lighter textured soils, you might be able to drive nutrients right in, but for us, we're dry land farmers with heavy ground. We're not driving much for nutrition in. We're going to target soil sampling in those zones and make sure we hit those hot spots so we can figure out what is it so we can solve it once and for all.
And here's the whole thing. I mean, we can all say, oh, we're going to look at all our fields. We're going to see all of what's going on in the fields. No way. It just flat out doesn't happen. It takes a lot of time when you're going to literally go across every single acre. Nobody does that. Instead, by using satellite imagery, now we can make sure we see, like Darren said, the hot spots, so we don't miss those. We take this opportunity to figure out what's going wrong.
All right, and one last thing, and I'm amazed Brian hasn't said this yet, but when we get a wet year, and I know it's been a while on our farm, probably since 2019, since we've had a wet year, but when you have a wet year, you can really identify where you have some drainage issues on your farm.
I said it already, Darren. See, he just misses that all the time. I throw in weeds, insects, diseases. I'm always going to throw in a drainage
Once
thing.
Brian talks about drainage, it usually takes the rest of the show. So yes, you can definitely identify where those problem areas are on the hot year, on the wet year, on the dry year, all those things, and you can dial in your planting population and fertility programs accordingly.
Well, once again, we love satellite imagery for scouting fields. We'd encourage you to take a look at it on your farm.
Well, one thing I hope you don't take a look at on your farm is our weed of the week. Can you identify this week's weed?